Hello. This is my endless knot rope garden, also known as an eternal knot. And the idea is that it's trimmed like a piece of rope in a knot, so that you've got one piece of rope going over and under another piece of rope. But as you can see, it's become a little untidy. At this time of year, I'm always a few jobs behind. But now this has reached the top of my list of priorities. It's surrounded by a band of daffodils, and I've deliberately not deadheaded them this year because I read online that by not deadheading them, it doesn't affect their vigour. So this is a bit of an experiment, but I will now be bringing that back under control too. With daffodils, it's important to leave them until the leaves start to die back, because by then all the goodness will have been taken back into the bulb. And I've got a bit of an obsession with box. I've got my endless knot garden, I've got my box parterre, I've got some huge box balls at the front of the house, and I have box in pots. But there is a problem with box in the UK at the moment, because unfortunately there is box blight and there is box tree caterpillar. And whilst I'm going to give you some tips on how to make an eternal knot garden, it might be worth considering a different type of plant than buxus. And the RHS has done some research in alternatives to buxus for tightly clipped hedges. So I will post a link to their website below this video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you some tips on how to make and look after an endless knot garden. And then I'm going to clip the endless knot garden and bring it back into shape and define it so that you can see what it looks like at its best. I'm also going to bring this rough band of long grass and daffodils back under control, so that by the end of this video we'll have a lovely, neat, endless knot to look at. But that whole process is likely to take well over an hour, and I'm not going to bore you to tears by making you watch it for an hour. So I'll do it all, I'll record it, and then I'll fast forward it so you can watch me do it at speed. But here are some tips. Number one, if you're thinking of doing a knot garden, look at alternatives to box, because you won't want to do that and then find in a couple of years it suffers from box blight or box tree caterpillar. Number two, whatever plant you do choose, make sure it's capable of forming a hedge and being clipped into a neat shape. And that's why box or buxus sempervirens has always been the plant of choice, because it is capable of making a hedge and it is capable of being clipped into a nice, neat shape, notwithstanding the current problems with box blight and box tree caterpillar. Number four, plan your box garden out on a piece of paper. Have a look at a lot of images on the internet. Possibly think about getting a piece of rope and making it on the table so that you can see which parts go over and which parts go under. Number five, do not be tempted to plant the box or whatever tree too close together. There is a temptation to think that if you plant them close together, they'll get off to a better start. And in fact, the opposite is true, because the plants appreciate a little bit of space around them and they don't want the competition of a near neighbour. Don't worry, it's a lesson in patience. Be patient and you will be rewarded, and soon enough they will all grow together. Another tip, when you're making a rope garden, I find it looks better if you've got shallow curves rather than deep up and down curves. It seems to look more natural and effective that way. Number seven, they say that if you want a really tight hedge, you should clip it twice a year. Now, I only clip mine once a year, mid-June. And in fact, I don't want a really tight hedge, because my view is that it's better if some air can get into it and circulate. Number eight, feed it. It's a growing plant and it is relatively close to a lot of other plants, and it's producing a lot of greenery every year every time you clip it, so it needs feeding. Number 9, mulch it. Watch my video on how to mulch and the benefits of mulching. It's important that in between that hedge gets mulched for best results. And number 10, When you're using electric tools, be careful, you don't want to cut through the wire. Make sure that you're using a circuit breaker. So let's get on with the job in hand. The first thing I'm going to do is use my electric hedge trimmers like a scythe to bring this down to ground level around the edge. And that will make it easier for me to then go over it with my mower. And at that point I will have a look at where I'm at, but providing it looks relatively neat, I will then go on to weeding in and around the box. Because as you can see, there is some pretty long grass in there and some nettles, and I want them out. So when I've done this outer band and I've weeded it, I will then start to trim it. And you will see this wonderful endless knot garden come back into shape. So I'll record that now for you. I'll put it in fast forward with some music, and I'll see you on the other side. So there we have it. The endless knot is brought back under control. I've trimmed in the daffodil border all around the edge, and as I continue to go over that with the mower, it will become more lawn-like. As I said, if you're planning on doing one of these, possibly look for alternatives to box because of box blight and box tree caterpillar. There are plenty of alternatives out there, and RHS has done some research. There's a link below this video. Whatever plant you use, make sure it's capable of forming a hedge and is capable of being trimmed, and don't plant them too close together. Be patient, they will eventually form a hedge. It's a lesson in patience. Feed them, water them. I leave the cuttings and some pondweed down in between as a mulch, and I always have done for 6 years, and it's always paid dividends. Go for nice shallow curves and bends rather than defined corners, because that looks more naturalistic. I hope you like it. I love it. You can see it's like a piece of rope intertwined, and if you follow it, it goes on into eternity. That's why it's called an endless knot. Please come back next time, because I'm going to be trimming the box parterre, which is just on the other side of the fish pond. And if you've liked this video, please do hit like, subscribe, share, and hit the notifications bell. Also, comment below. Have you got a box parterre? Would you like one? How would you design it? Have you any questions? Please do engage. I'd love to hear from you.